Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo. Chapter 1, which is entitled Questions by Vidura. And we're doing texts 14 and 15 this morning. Hare Krishna. Without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Jamuna Tira Bandachari, Jamuna Tira Bandachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Astottara Satasisi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishna Vishnupad Paramhansa Privajikacharya Astottara Satasisi Maharaj Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charger Shira Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopika Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityananda. Namaste Shivadaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namani. Narayana Namaskritya Narum Chevam Naruttamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udijayet. Nashtapayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamastuke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 14. Itiustu Itiuchivam stata suyodanena Pavrida kopa spurita darena Asat kreta sat prihaniya shila Shata sakana nuja saubalina Itiuchivam statra suyodanena Pavrida kopa spurita darena Asat kreta sat sprihaniya shila Shata sakana nuja saubalina Itiuchivam statra suyodanena Pravriddha kopa spurita darina Asatkrita sat sprihaniya shila Shata sakana nu taya Sata sakana nuja saubalina. Hare Krishna. Please stand.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Iti uccivanstatra suyodhanena pravruddha spuritadarena asatkrita sat sprihaniya shila kshatta sakarnanuja saubalena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Ityuchiva sastra suyathanina pravruddha kopa spurita asatkrutah satspruhaniyashilah shata sakarnanuja sopalena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Ityuchavam tatra dhananena pravridakopa spurita dhararena asatkrita sat spruhaniya sila sata sakarnanuja subalena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? We do word for word now. Hare Krishna. Iti, thus. Uchivan, while speaking. Tatra, there. Suyodanina, by Duryodhan. Pavrida, swollen with. Kopa, anger. Spurita, flapping. Hadarina, lips. Asatkrita, insulted. Sat, respectable. Sprihaniya Shila, desirable qualities. Chatta, Vidura. Sa, with. Karna, Karna. Anuja, younger brothers. Somalena, with Shakuni. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry, just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. Saint Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons. But Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana in his nefarious acts. Text 15. Kaena matrupa juhavajiham dasya sutam yad valineva pushta tasmin pratipa parakrita aste nivashyatam ashu purachchava svasana. Word for word. Kahu, enam, this, atra, here. Upajuhava, called for. Jihmam, crooked. Dasya, of a kept mistress. Sutam, son. Yat, whose. Valina, by whose subsistence. Eva, certainly. Pushta, grown up. Tasmin, unto him. Patipa, enemy. Parakritya, enemy's interest. Aste, situated. Nivashyatam, get him out. Ashu, immediately. Purad, from the palace. Shwasana, let him breathe only. Translation by His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Report by Srila Prabhupada. When getting married, the Kshatriya kings would take on several other youthful girls along with the married princess. These girl attendants of the king were known as dasis, or attendant mistresses. By intimate association with the king, the dasis would get sons. Such sons are called dasiputras. They had no claim to a royal position, but they would get maintenance and other facilities just like princes. Excuse me. Vidura was the son of such a dasi, and he was thus not counted among the Kshatriyas. King Dhritarashtra was very affectionate toward his younger brother Dasiputra, Vidura, and Vidura was a great friend and philosophical advisor to Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana knew very well that Vidura was a great soul and well-wisher, but unfortunately he used strong words to hurt his innocent uncle. Duryodhana not only attacked Vidura's birth, but also called him an infidel because he seemed to support the cause of Yudhishthira, whom Duryodhana considered his enemy. He desired that Vidura be immediately put out of the palace and deprived of all his possessions. If possible, he would have liked him caned. until he was left with nothing but his breath. He charged that Vidura was a spy of the Pandavas because he advised King Dhritarashtra in their favor. Such is the situation of palace life and the intricacies of diplomacy, that even a faultless person like Vidura could be charged with something abominable and punished. Vidura was struck with wonder at such unexpected behavior from his nephew Duryodhana, and before anything actually happened, he decided to leave the palace for good. Hare Krishna. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatiyadi Shatarini. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachase Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, a previous text translation, English translation, while speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. English translation, text 15. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Hare Krishna. So these two texts, text 14 and 15, describe situations that are rather unfortunate, especially for devotees who are trying to live a life that would earn the favor of Krishna and allow us to go back home, back to Godhead. This is a part of the Mahabharata. So, before the war, Dhritarashtra, who was the king, the blind king, his brother was Vidura, younger brother. Dhritarashtra had called Vidura to come to see him. Vidura was the minister. And also to give him advice because he was the advisor to the king. The situation, the way it was unfolding, was difficult. In one hand, difficult for Dhritarashtra. On the one hand, he was very attached to his sons, especially the first one, Duryodhana. On the other hand, the way things were unfolding, he could sense danger for the Kauravas. So, in one sense, he should have taken the straight path, but he wanted advice from Vidura. So he called Vidura, and Vidura is very straightforward. He told him that this person, Duryodhana, who is your son, he's actually trouble. He's going to make trouble for you. So you really shouldn't plan your life based on Duryodhana having such, I'm just paraphrasing, such a prominent position. Prior to that, Dhritarashtra had already reluctantly announced that the next crown prince was going to be Yudhishthira. And so all of this was at the back of the mind of Duryodhana. And when Vidura told his brother, the king, Dhritarashtra, that Duryodhana in many words was no good, and shouldn't be given much of an advantage in the situation, that they were headed for trouble if he does that. He said that to the hearing of Duryodhana, to Shakuni, the uncle of Duryodhana, and to the friend of Duryodhana, Karna. They were there, they heard it. And immediately, Duryodhana, who does not have much control over his emotions, blew up, got upset. And that's what was described in the first one, text 14, and in text 15, you see he's now talking from a point of view of anger. And he's describing his feelings in words now. And what does he say? This is his uncle now. But he starts by saying, who asked him to come here? This son of a kept mistress. And Srila Prabhupada does, in fact, admit in the purport that Kshatriya kings, when they get married, yes, there is a princess that they marry, who becomes a queen. And then there are maidservants, usually close to that particular lady, who come with the lady as part of the marriage entourage to the king's palace. And they stay there as attendant mistresses. They attend to the king and queen, especially to the queen. But as the word says, attendant mistresses. So they're mistresses to who? Mistresses to the king. And the king, apparently the way it's described here, if he wants, he can in fact have children by these dasis also. So it wasn't something that was unknown. It was known to the queen. It was known to everybody. This is the way things were. For kings, the Kshatriyas are even allowed to marry more than one woman. They're allowed to marry more than one woman. Before the end of his pastimes with Krishna, or Krishna's pastimes with him, I should say this way, Arjuna married 4 women. 4 women. So Kshatriyas are allowed to. But it's not just for sense gratification. Sometimes it's for political strategy. Sometimes they marry like that. And that time, yeah, many married like that. To have friendship between 2 territories, then princess of that one territory get married to someone in the other territory, and then you become friends because there's in-law type relationship that's there. Or the princess, the brothers of that particular prince become brothers-in-law. So in that way, the chances of any conflict progressing to an all-out war is prevented. Because there's family relationship now between the 2 territories, and therefore there's no, there's not much of a chance that war will break out without the family discussing the matter. Now the kings and all that on both sides, they become family members. So that was done, but of course, with the, along, as we said here, mistresses, young girls who also follow the bride to assist her with life, they also come to the palace. So one such dasi gave birth to Vidura, and Duryodhana decides to bring down verbally Vidura by insulting him that you're not even a child born from a queen or a princess. You are a child born from a mistress, like that, a dasi, a servant. So that's why he was saying, so who asked him to come here? Speaking like that. Now, first of all, who asked him to come here is in many ways a very unintelligent question. We could ask Duryodhana, what do you mean who asked him to come here? Your own father asked him to come and advise him. So what kind of question is that? You see, but the point is, Duryodhana is angry. That's why he's speaking like that. So what happens in anger? People lose their sense of reason. The question, I'll put it in American language indirectly, it was a dumb question. Who asked him to come here? He is the minister. What do you mean who asked him to come here? He's a prince. He's a minister. He's your uncle. And then he even adds more to it. The son of a kept mistress. So you're even a Dasiputra. Hmm? And then he goes on to say he's so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy. So Duryodhana is looking at the Pandavas as an enemy, and he's expecting Vidura to also look at them, the Pandavas, as an enemy. Again, another foolishness. Because Vidura does not look at the Pandavas as enemies. They are related. Pandavas and Kauravas were cousins. Hmm? Their fathers were brothers. So, he says he's so crooked. Duryodhana is referring to Vidura as so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he's grown up. Because Duryodhana knows, and everybody knows, that since Vidura is the minister, yes, the minister gets salary from the state. So that's why he put it out here. And then he says, toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. So Duryodhana was very, very upset. And what happens in the situation of anger, the words that come out are very, very unfortunate. In our Shastra, there are 6 vices that we have to protect our minds against and our activities and our character against, because those are vices that lead us to a hellish planet. It says it leads to hell. Literally, you cannot go back to Godhead. And those are lust and anger, as Duryodhana was exhibiting. Lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy. Lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy. Any one of those, or a combination of any one of those, if we allow those to be in our lives, we're asking for trouble. Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada explains that Dhritarashtra is very, very affectionate towards his younger brother, Vidura. But Vidura's background is also actually quite advantageous for his older brother, King Dhritarashtra, because Vidura is Dharmaraj. Vidura is Yamaraj, who had come to the earth here at the time that Krishna was around because he wanted Krishna's association. There was a whole pastime that wound Vidura up in the situation that he wound up. That's in Mahabharata. We won't get into that since we'll just divert too much. But he was here because he wanted to get a chance to associate directly with Krishna. And Krishna was around at that time. So Vidura was born. Anyway, as why he was born a Dasaputra had to do with something that he did as Yamaraj to a sage. That the sage, of course, Yamaraj punishes people, but the sage thought that Yamaraj had overstepped his bounds by awarding much stricter, harsher punishment than the sage should have gotten. And that's why he actually the sage cursed Vidura. And that's why he was born in that kind of lower birth with a mistress, rather than a princess or even a queen for that matter. So anyway, that's Vidura's situation. But it's not in Duryodhana's place to insult Vidura like that, because Vidura was a brother to his own father. He was an uncle to Duryodhana. So it's interesting, Srila Prabhupada says, Duryodhana knew very well that Vidura was a great soul and also a well-wisher. So many things have happened that he had advised on, Vidura had advised the king about, that showed, and everybody knew, even the townspeople, the people knew that Vidura was a great soul, Vidura was a well-wisher. At the very least, they knew he was very much in the mode of goodness, even if they didn't know his background, that before he came, that was, in fact, Yamaraj that had come. But his behavior, his activities, his advice, his wisdom, everybody knew that Vidura was a great soul. So Duryodhana is angry, and he's using such words only because Vidura has pointed him out to his brother, Duryodhana's father, that Duryodhana is up to no good. So anger causes loss of control emotionally. We have to be very careful about that. As a matter of fact, there's another incident that's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but in the fourth canto. And it had to do with Lord Shiva and Daksha, one of the Prajapatis. Prajapatis are those born from Lord Brahma and charged by Lord Brahma to produce more children. And Prajapati, Praja is the population. So Prajapati, those who give, and that is like in the biblical word, increase and multiply. We've heard that before, make more children to fill the different universes. So that was Daksha's main function. So what happened? Well, actually it connects to, in a sense, to Vidura also. When Vidura was asked to leave, he actually left before anything became pretty bad at the palace of Dhritarashtra. And he went to pilgrimage places, and he eventually met Maitreya. So he was asking a few questions to Maitreya. Actually, he asked a lot of questions, not a few questions. The third canto that we are on, the later parts of the third canto to the fourth canto, is all discussions between Maitreya and Vidura. So Vidura asked this question in Canto 4, Chapter 2. He said, Lord Shiva is the spiritual master of the entire world, is free from enmity, he's a peaceful personality, and is always satisfied in himself. He's the greatest among the demigods. How is it possible that Daksha could be inimical towards such an auspicious personality? We could ask the same question. How is it possible that Duryodhana could be so inimical to Vidura, like the way it's discussed here in the text that we're dealing with today? So Vidura asked that question of Maitreya. And then Maitreya answered. So there was a sacrifice, a great sacrifice by demigods and great sages and philosophers, some demigods and fire gods also assembled with their followers. So this is all from the fourth canto, chapter 2. Daksha also came. There was going to be a big sacrifice. And pujas are done quite a bit in the heavenly planets, the higher planets. So Daksha, proud of himself, enters the assembly. His bodily luster is all over the place. He's like very bright and effulgent. So much pride is there. The entire assembly honored him, though. All the assembled personalities, they got up, and just in respect, they got up from the seats when he entered. Now, it turns out that Lord Shiva, who was also there, even actually before Daksha noticed Lord Shiva, even Lord Brahma, who was the one presiding that great assembly for the puja, he offered Lord Brahma respect, offered respect to Daksha, sorry. So then Lord Brahma, of course, was the one presiding, so then he asked everybody to sit down. Everybody properly took their seat. But before Daksha sat down, he noticed that Lord Shiva did not get up when the others got up. Lord Brahma didn't have to get up. But Lord Shiva didn't get up either. And Daksha became angry. And with his eyes fiery red like that, he began to speak very strongly against Lord Shiva. And he literally asked for the brahmanas and the fire god, all of those present, to hear him first. He says, I don't speak out of ignorance or envy. Well, actually, that's how he was speaking. But he says that he doesn't. So he actually, in a sense, he was not speaking the truth. Even he started like that. So then Daksha starts, says, Lord Shiva has spoiled the name and fame of the governors of the universe, meaning the demigods, and has polluted the path of gentle manners. Because he's shameless, he doesn't know how to act. Now, this is when Daksha was angry. He's speaking about the Lord Shiva, like that. Then he continued that he has already accepted himself as my subordinate by marrying my daughter. By marrying my daughter, apologize, in the presence of fire and brahmanas. He has married my daughter, who is equal to Gayatri, and has pretended to be just like an honest person. So this is the first, he's just loading up, dumping on Lord Shiva like that. Yes, it is true that Lord Shiva married the daughter of Daksha, but that's Daksha's service. He had been commanded by Lord Brahma to help with populating. Therefore, his children, his own Daksha's children, including the daughters, he would marry them off to others so they can have more children. This is what he was supposed to do. But now Daksha is using it. Says, he married my daughter. The daughter is called Sati. Therefore, Daksha is assuming that by material standards, Lord Shiva was a son-in-law to him, Daksha. And therefore, Lord Shiva, should have respected Daksha when Daksha arrived at the assembly. That's the point he's making. Now, from a material standpoint, this seems to be correct. Just like from a material standpoint, all of the arguments that Arjuna made also not to fight in the Kurukshetra war was correct in chapter 1 from a material standpoint. From a spiritual standpoint, it doesn't make any sense at all. As in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna started speaking, because Arjuna asked him to be the spiritual master and he, the disciple, to hear out Krishna, and Krishna started speaking and explain things to him from a spiritual standpoint. So the point is, Lord Shiva, from a spiritual standpoint, is way higher in position than Daksha. So even if by material standards he's a son-in-law of Daksha, he had every right to remain seated. Just like when Lord Brahma remained seated, Lord Shiva also had every right to remain seated when Daksha came. But Daksha is looking at things from a material standpoint. What do we learn from it? A Pandit has to look at everybody every living entity from a spiritual standpoint. Then you don't make mistakes like that. Anyway, Daksha continues, then he really, really starts putting Lord Shiva down. He has eyes, this is Daksha speaking. Shiva has eyes like monkeys, yet he has married my daughter. Direct insult, and Shiva is very good looking. Yet, look at what he says, Daksha says about him. He did not stand up to receive me, nor did he think it fit to welcome me with sweet words. He didn't do that. And just because of that, Daksha, is speaking like that. Then he says, he reveals his mind. I had no desire to give my daughter to this person who has broken all the rules of civility. Because of not observing the required rules and regulations, he is impure, but I was obliged to hand over my daughter to him just as one who teaches the messages of the Vedas to a Shudra. So many insults, one thing after another. He lives in filthy places like crematoriums, and his companions are the ghosts and demons. See, and he says, talking about Shiva, naked like a madman. He sometimes laughs and sometimes cries. He smears crematorium ashes all over his body. He does not bathe regularly, and he ornaments his body with his garland of skulls and bones. Therefore, he is Shiva in name only, because Shiva means auspicious, but actually he's the most mad and inauspicious creature. Thus, he's very dear to crazy beings in the mode of ignorance, and he is their leader. Then he goes again, hammers Shiva again. I handed over my chaste daughter to him, although he is devoid of all cleanliness and his heart is filled with nasty things. So see, just because Shiva didn't get up, but Shiva spiritually is way higher than all of the demigods there, except Lord Brahma. But just because there is a marriage relationship between Daksha and Shiva, Daksha's daughter being married to Shiva, so Daksha thinks that he has greater right over him Shiva. Shiva is like a son-in-law now. Now, what happened? Shiva also has followers. So they're hearing all of this. And so Nandishwara, who is a follower of Lord Shiva, he also got up and he also became greatly angry. And he prepared to curse Daksha and all the Brahmanas present who tolerated Daksha's cursing Shiva and harsh words. So then Nandishwara also starts talking. We won't bore you with all the details, just a little part of it. In text 23, so Nandishwara says Daksha has accepted the body as all in all. And this is true. He was looking at it from a material standpoint. Since he has forgotten the Vishnu Pad or Vishnu Gati and is attached to sex life only, within a short time, he will have a face of a goat. So now Nandishwara curses Daksha. The Daksha, in a short while, is going to have a face of a goat. Cursed him like that. Actually, it did happen. Daksha actually got killed. He was beheaded, and a goat was put in his face, and he was on his neck, and he was brought back to life. So the Daksha actually started running around with the face of a goat. But it's all because of anger that all of this happened. So in Bhagavad Gita, it ended badly. Lord Shiva heard all of this anyway. So what did Lord Shiva do? He didn't say a word. The place had become very, very, horrible because of all the cursing and the counter cursing. So, of course, Nandishwara was a follower of Lord Shiva, and now he's cursing Daksha, counter cursing Daksha. So the place had become horrible. There's supposed to be a sacrifice going on. They're going to start a sacrifice, and this is happening. So Lord Shiva just got up and left, and his followers also left with him. Anger caused all of this. Anger caused all of this, and ignorance on the part of Daksha caused all of this. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 62, Jayato Vishayan Punsha Sangaste Supajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamat Krodo Vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So that was Daksha's problem. Even though he's speaking horribly the way he did, because Shiva did not get up when he came, he already, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that he's into sense gratification. Of course he's into sense gratification. It's been happening because he's been told, oh, you're Prajapati. Make so many children. Make so many children, that means involve yourself in sex life. But then what he's done, he's gone overboard. He's really a materialist in many ways. And some of them guys are like that. Materialist. He's thinking materially in Lord Shiva. Oh, he's my son-in-law, therefore he's supposed to respect me. He's not thinking spiritually that Shiva is way elevated compared outside Lord Brahma, except Lord Brahma. He's elevated, more elevated than everybody that's there. So, of course, Lord Brahma was being the one that was presiding over it. But even in spirituality, Lord Shiva is higher than even Lord Brahma. He's higher than Lord Brahma. So Daksha had no place spiritually near Lord Shiva at all. But he got angry, and then he lost his real good reasoning, and then basically all of this happened. Unfortunate situation. So Krishna is saying that anger is connected to lust. In fact, he says lust is from contemplating the objects of the senses and developing attachment for them. then people lust for things. Of course, in the society now, it's more the ignorance and more the passion. Therefore, many companies push us to develop attachment for material things. They advertise in our faces all the time. This one has come, oh, there's been an improvement on it. Get this one, get that one. In the meantime, we're spending so much money. Mm-hmm. So from attachment to object to the senses, to things, to material things, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So a person that tends to lose it a lot and get anger already is lusty. The whole world doesn't have to know. And that person will know also. Mm-hmm. It's lust that causes anger. Therefore, we have to try to deal with lust. A situation that is negative is going to prevent us from going back to Godhead. We don't belong in this place, in this material world. We don't belong. Things are never going to get better because this is Kali Yuga, and things get progressively worse in Kali Yuga. So, how do you deal with lust? Well, first of all, lust is two categories. There's gross lust and subtle lust. The subtle lust is what many people don't know about. So we'll start with that first. When a person is attached to being powerful, attached to being recognized, attached to being praised, that person has subtle, what we call subtle lust. Gross lust, the topmost of gross lust is illicit sex. But there is subtle lust, which we explained now. So when a person likes to be praised, devotees don't do that. To the peace in each na Tarariva Sahistuna Amani Namanadina Ketania Sadahari. To chant the holy name of the Lord, Lord Chaitanya says we should be humble and we should be tolerant. Tolerant like a tree, humble like a blade of grass. Even when people disrespect us, we shouldn't disrespect back. Daksha was thinking that Shiva had disrespected him by not getting up. And so he unloads on, as in American language, unloads on Lord Shiva. So many things in this assembly where everybody that is, who's who in the heavenly planets are all assembled. And sages are there also. So we have to be careful. Anger makes us lose temporarily our sense of equilibrium. And we say things that we regret later on. So what should we really do? Sometimes people do get angry. Now, devotees, when they are offended, it's serious. It's taken very seriously. So we have to be careful not to be aparadi, especially through being angry. So one situation that can be done, practical, when one feels anger coming on towards another devotee, they should actually physically remove themselves from there. I remember, I'll give myself as an example. There was one situation, I think it's about 2 years back in the summertime. And there was a one of those functions that sometimes is done in downtown and people are invited and they set up stalls. And usually when we hear about this and we in the temple we just have a we set up for book distribution. And so this was in anyway, it was in Harrisburg, Front Street. We're in the corner there, Front Street and Market, corner of Market and Front Street. They set up. We even brought a keyboard. We were playing and singing Hare Krishna, and the books were also there. People were walking up, and people going to City Island from Market Street were stopping. We're talking, and then these two Matajis came. They're not devotees. From what they were speaking, I found out they were Christian. And they were talking to some of the devotees. And the devotees really couldn't, quoting from the Bible, and some of the devotees didn't know anything in the Bible. Therefore, one of them thought to bring them to me, because I had a Christian background before coming to Krishna consciousness. So they began to speak to me, things from the Bible, and I know things from the Bible. So they're talking, and finally, one was Oriental. Oriental, I could tell from the face. Maybe Filipino, I'm not sure. And the other one definitely was Indian body. Two Mataji, two women. And as I'm trying to explain that Krishna consciousness is not against Christianity, but it's higher in terms of what you get spiritually. I mentioned Krishna. Then one of the Mataji said, well, Krishna is not God. And immediately, as soon as he said that, this anger welled up in me. And of course, if I opened my mouth to say something, I would have probably said something very bad to her. But since this is practice that we've done over a number of years, we have been trained to do, I just simply put my hands together like in the prayer formula and says, Krishna is not God. Thank you very much. There's nothing else to tell you. And I walked away from them. But clearly, I was upset. You could see in my face. That I thought it was a very bad blow to me to even hear somebody saying the Krishna is not God. An Indian body that make that kind of statement. The point we're saying is, I try to control myself. When somebody makes you angry, and if you know that the next thing that's going to come to your mouth to speak is something that you might regret later on speaking, best to physically move yourself away from that situation. Get yourself out. And I'm not even the person that is a great example. Lord Shiva himself is a great example about this situation when Daksha offended him. He never said a word. He got up and left, though. He left. And then, of course, he was great. So, therefore, his followers came with him. When he left, they also didn't see any need to be there. Their master had been insulted anyway. So they also got up and left. So that's one of the things that we could do. Physically, before we get angry and say something we regret, it's best to leave that situation. Leave. You don't say anything, just go. But generally, anger, especially expressed towards other devotees, it's not good at all. Leaders are the exception. Leaders are like coaches, who presidents, and so they can say some things to help the person who is doing the wrong things in devotional service to have the better understanding on what to do. That's there. And sometimes they can be, and they are allowed to be a little bit more forceful in what they say. But even as managers, cannot use insulting words. They can make their point very, very, very strong. They can. They're allowed to do that. Only managers, though. Only managers, not everybody else. It's like in a team, we have a coach, and then we have the players. So everybody else is like a player, and the manager is like the coach. Coaches can speak forcefully, but managers or coaches are not allowed to insult. Daksha was insulting Lord Shiva. So he was very wrong. And he got punished, as Nandishwara also said that when he counter-cursed, he said that Daksha will wind up with the face of a goat. Later on, Daksha had to apologize to Lord Shiva. But that was way later. Way later, because there was another function. And after that was when Daksha found out he really caused a lot of problems. So anyway, a person who is easily angered usually has problems with uncontrolled lust. What to do? Sincere prayer to the spiritual master is important. To ask specifically for help in controlling lust. And in controlling lust, you'll get the benefit of controlling anger also. A person who's angry does have lust issues. They don't have to tell the whole world they have lust issues because they don't have to. Unless they want to get help from somebody and that person is a person that they can confide in, then they can say something confidentially about lust issues. But it does happen quite a bit. People having lust issues. It's not surprising. This earth is everything is functioning based on mode of passion. And Lord Brahma himself is the head for lack of a better way to put it, of passion. Lord Vishnu is mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva is mode of ignorance. Lord Brahma, this is Lord Brahma's arena. He created this. So lust will be here. Passion will be here. Hmm? Through Krishna consciousness, we're trying to clean up all the unwanted desires. While we get rid of unwanted desires, then our attachment to them also goes away. One of the easy ways to get detached from material things is to be more charitable. The more you give, when you give something, it is gotten away from you. Therefore, you become detached because it's gone anyway. You gave it as a gift. So the more gifts one can give, the more they become detached from the material energy. And the more detached they are, as Krishna is saying, the attachment is gone because or it's going down, 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 down. Then the lust goes down. And with that, the anger also goes down. So the root really of anger is lust, as Krishna explains. So when things are a little bit more, especially lust, sometimes people can get addicted to other forms, to different forms of lust. What to do? When you can't deal with a situation because we're too attached to it and therefore we have an addiction, the one situation that we can put ourselves in to break that addiction is to resort to prayer. You have to pray and cry. As Holiness Govinda Maharaj said, we must cry to the Lord. We must cry to the Lord. We cry to the spiritual master. If you're not initiated, you cry to Srila Prabhupada. If you're embarrassed, you cry to Srila Prabhupada when nobody's around. Go in a room, close the door, or when you find yourself at home by yourself, then you open up your heart to the Lord. I have this problem. Because it is a real problem. If we don't deal with it, we don't go back to Godhead. Because lust will give rise to anger, and anger will give rise to insults, just like we've seen here. And if you insult and the person is unhappy, we become an aparadi, an offender. And offenders are not allowed back in the spiritual world, even if they chant 16 rounds in a day, all 4 regulated principles, which probably they can't do anyway because illicit sex is connected with lust. You can't go back. So it's a real issue and a big one. But prayer solves everything. All prayers are heard. And with prayers will come specific things to do in order to deal with that. We're not giving specific examples because everybody's feelings are different. Everybody's attachments may be different. But prayer means we are opening up to the spiritual master. This is for us, the spiritual master, that is the chain of command, spiritual master, then to Krishna. You can pray to Lord Gauranga, Lord Chaitanya. He's Krishna, but he came as a devotee. So, and the Guru is also a devotee. So when you pray to the spiritual master, you can also pray to Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda. They are, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati, they are the most merciful incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes it's put that way, though the Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's the most merciful form of the Lord. Therefore, if you pray to Lord Gauranga, the chances of you getting help from Krishna are very high. And this is how we're going to be able to go back home when lust is put under control. So yes, it's an issue. What happens, last point, what happens when a devotee offends another one? It's obvious that they've offended a person, especially out of anger. In karmi life, when a person admits that they were wrong, they would apologize. In devotee life, it's not only apology that works, or that a devotee has to be about. In karmi life, you do one thing, you apologize. In devotee life, you have to do 2 things. You apologize and you also serve the person that was offended. Both have to be there. Because the service helps us, the service that you give helps the person that was angry to begin to imbibe humility. You offended one person, and now you said, I'm sorry, but you've also begun to look for ways to serve that person. It is very, very, very important to do apologies and also service, both. Serve that person, and then that will be put behind, put aside, and Krishna would not disallow us to go back once we've done this. Again, in Kami life, a person is apologizing because they realize they've done something wrong. That's the way it's done in Kami life. But in devotee life, there also has to be service given by that person. Find ways to serve the person that got offended by us. Anyway, so Lord Shiva, in the example that we gave, he was offended by Daksha, and Lord Shiva just simply walked away. Later on, Daksha got punished. And Duryodhan, as you know, in Mahabharata, he's also going to be punished badly in the war, and he would be left to think about what he had done before dying, because he'd be on the battlefield, bleeding, slowly dying, and he'd realize his mistakes. But we shouldn't let it get to this point. We're trying to go back to Godhead. Therefore, these things, especially anger, and many people come to devotee life and the anger issues are still there because lust issues are still there. But we have to work them out, because with that, then you become a very nice person. When lust is gone, lust is curtailed, and then anger is also curtailed automatically in that situation. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So, as you can tell, devotee life is not like regular life, even more to goodness. It's far more to it. But the price that Krishna gives us is going back home, and no old age, no disease, no death, and everything is wonderful in the spiritual world. We definitely should aim for that. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming on, and Hare Krishna and Mataji. Hare Krishna. This is time for questions. If anybody has any question, please unmute yourself and ask questions. Or if you have some takeaways from this class, then you can also mention that, and we all can learn, or at least it emphasizes what's been talked about when you mention your takeaways. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Shane, Prabhu, I accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Please go ahead, unmute yourself.
Please accept mine. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare
Right.
Krishna. Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful class. So many wonderful points.
Krishna's mercy.
Yeah, really good to remember how that whole process works from that verse in chapter 2 about how attachment to the senses leads to anger. Such a thing I have to constantly remind myself of that verse.
That's all of us, not just you. But go ahead. Good point,
yeah,
though.
thank you. So
I try to interrupt, but yeah. Sorry.
yeah.
Have you finished? Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, I was just it's a good reminder of how terrible anger can be, how much of a terrible thing that can lead to. But that's all I have. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, and the thing is, many people do get angry. And gotta be careful. We have to be careful. That's why we put things in perspective. Damodar, please go ahead. Accept my obligations as well as Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my
Right.
Prabhupada.
Right.
Such a very appropriate words, in the recent times, and like a lot of things to ponder upon from today's class, especially how there is a difference between when we apologize, there is a difference in the way we do it in outside world versus we do with the devotees. So and other points as well, a lot of things to ponder upon. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. For devotees, you apologize, but you also serve the person that you offended. Both. Then Krishna puts it in. Then this is how it gets cleaned up with any any backlash that can come from the Lord's agents. They won't, that will be gone. That will be gone. Once you do service to that person after apologizing. Hare Krishna. Any other comments? If not, then thank you very much. This is the weekend. It's Friday, so have a wonderful Krishna Conscious Day and Krishna Conscious weekend. As usual, those of us in this area, 4:30 Sunday, there will be the Sunday program. So please come and let's associate. Associating with devotees is very, 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 very important. That's our practice for associating with those in the spiritual world when we go back. This is the practice we have. This is how we learn. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha titanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji.